Hello, everybody, and bom dia to everyone. Welcome to the Victory Road World Cup of Pokémon VGC, sponsored by GG Tour, Metafi, and Elgato. My name is Evan Wang, and I am joined by Stefan Mott, or if you guys know him as Pengi. And today
Hello.
we're jumping right into the top 16 of the World Cup. So the qualifier stage and the group stages have concluded, and we had a little break from worlds that happened just a little while ago, and right now we have narrowed all the teams down from about 50 to just 16, and we'll be bringing you guys 5 matches for today, tomorrow, and Sunday. How are you feeling, Pengi?
Pretty good. It's nice to be back on the broadcast. It's really fun to be kicking things off with some of the matches that we have today. Some of my friends are playing, but also just some of the best players in this format. We've got players like Shohei Kimura and Hippolyte Bernard coming up later on as well. But overall, I'm very excited for this top 16. There are tons of storylines to follow. There are so many interesting teams and interesting matchups. We have a couple rematches from last year as well. Like it's set to be a pretty crazy top 16.
Yeah, we actually did a little bit of a video, right, together, the two of us, and actually discussed quite a lot of these storylines, and they are so interesting. And we also managed to touch on how the teams managed to get to this point, like their journeys, their win-loss records, and like for example, Team India's record is just insane, right? Like doing so well.
39-9 in sets right now is Team India, which we'll be seeing if they can continue that in the first set of the day. But as Evan said, we did record a video together that's going to be going up on my channel in about a couple of hours. I know it's processing right now, which takes a while. But yeah, so check that out if you guys want some additional context to the upcoming top 16 stuff. But of course, more importantly, the socials of Victory Road. Of course, at Victory Road VG or at VGC Victory Road on Twitter. And of course, here we are on Victory Road VGC on the Twitch. If you're watching this in a YouTube VOD, go follow the Twitch. There's going to be a lot of broadcasts still. We still got a ways to go, and it's more fun to watch live. But if you're watching this live, go check out the YouTube /Victory Road VGC. There are some matches on the YouTube that were never seen on stream. It's basically a great way to keep up and catch up with all of the VODs that you missed, as well as get a little bit of extra content in there as well.
Yeah, so Twitter is the most important part where we give you guys updates live for the World Cup, and also it's an interesting time during VGC right now, so it'll be nice to just follow along. We're trying to do some different formats other than the Series 13 format, which is a little bit crazy on the ladder right now. And speaking of updates, we have the top 16 bracket right in front of you, so you guys can see the maps and paths for each country to lead all the way to the finals to clinch that championship title for the World Cup, and also with some money involved, like countries are really looking to bring their A game into this top cut.
Yeah, this is looking crazy, especially the right side of this bracket, just looking insane. We, of course, have some of the big heavy hitters, USA, Italy, Japan. But then on top of that, we also have teams like Poland and the Netherlands who have just been doing insanely well in this individual tournament. So the right side of the bracket looks really rife for potential upsets, and it's going to be crazy to watch. And on the left, we have some of these teams are going to be able to make a run that is going to be historic for them. I mean, the top left side of the bracket, Taiwan, Canada, India, Singapore, one of those teams is getting to the top 4, and that's a really neat opportunity for them as well. They're not going to want to let this opportunity slip, and even if they do hit the top 4, and it's going to be tough against whoever comes from the bottom side of that bracket, but anybody who makes it to the top 4 is capable of going all the way.
Yeah, not just that, the left side of the bracket, just want to give some shout outs to these teams. They have been performing so well from all the way from the start in the qualifier stage and then the group stage, with quite a few of these teams like being undefeated. They have some ties here and there, but they have never lost set against another country. And these stories are just so amazing to see the growth of these teams all the way up to this point. And now it's all or nothing. It is a single elimination bracket, so it's really up to these teams to show us what they got. The matches will be 7 versus 7, so there is no room for mistake. The matches, we expect them to get really, really close. And it's really do or die. You need to get at least 4 wins to move on.
And also cutting the matches from 8 versus 8 to 7 versus 7 is slightly advantageous for the teams that are a little bit more top heavy. Some of these teams like the United States, who are very, very like a deep roster all the way through, the more games the better, because then there's less room for error. But if you're looking at some of these teams like maybe a Singapore or maybe like Singapore or Thailand, these are teams that are a bit top heavy. They have some incredibly good players at the top. And the less games that are played, the higher an impact those games played by the aces are going to leave on the overall match result. So it also kind of levels the playing field a little bit between some of the underdogs and some of the favorites, which is going to make it really, really interesting.
Yeah, so let's go through the matches that we are bringing you guys today. There will be 5 matches today, 5 more tomorrow, and 5 more on Sunday. So starting off, India versus Singapore on the left side of the bracket, and followed by 2 matches from Poland versus Argentina on the right side of the bracket. And we also have Thailand versus Japan. This is like a matchup for the first time. For Thailand, they have got all the way to top 8, whereas for Japan, it's the first time in the top 16 bracket. And finally, this is the rematch. Exactly in the top 16 bracket in 2021, Italy defeated France 7-0. And this is a repeat of history. On the left side of the bracket, there was also a rematch between South Korea and Brazil that we did not touch on earlier. But this last match is something that you guys would want to stay for. Hippolyte Bernard versus Daniele Spuntarelli. Interesting fact right off the bat, they were on the same bracket in the world's top cut last week. They were on the right side, and if Hippolyte won Megan Rattle, and Daniele won James Beck, they would have met at top 4. So like finally they get to play here, and I'm interested to see how this game goes off.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. I'm also very much looking forward to just this first set, if we want to talk about that a little bit. I mean, Devon, he's a very, very creative player. He's somebody who maybe hasn't been branching out quite as much in this format, at least from what I've seen. He's been very much on the Veldon train. But Devon is just one of those consistent performers, especially when it comes to team leagues. He went 3-2 in the last year's World Cup. He's currently 3-1 in this World Cup. He had a very solid win rate in USPA. I think it was 4-2 or something in USPA. He is a consummately consistent player. He's very, very good. And on the other side, you've got Benjamin So, who did not play in 2021. He's 1-0 this season, so he's got a 100% win rate, but he hasn't played that much. But the man just got top 32 at the London Open. He went 7-2 with this team, so he's capable of piloting it to a very high level. Clearly, the London Open, probably the most stacked regional level tournament that we're going to have this season, just due to the fact that it was at Worlds. And it's going to be really interesting to see whether Benjamin can take that success with the team that he saw in London and translate it to the online circuit here with a win over Devon.
Yep. So myself, I'm from Singapore, and I kind of got to know Benjamin a little bit better this year. He wasn't that active last year. So let's jump straight into the matchup in front of us of India versus Team Singapore. And we do see the rosters on both sides. From Team Singapore, I believe 5 of us, I would say. I'm actually not part of Team Singapore this year because I'm staffing for VR, but I do know a lot of these close friends of mine, and we kind of tried to repeat the top 16 roster from last year to bring out as many of our good players as possible versus India, and the names from India are just really no strangers to the online scene and also to these kind of draft league formats.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this a couple of times over the course of this tournament, but India is just such a solid team. They have so much depth. They have the highest percentage win rate in the entire tournament right now with set wins. And just looking at the successes of both of our players, we did briefly touch on Benjamin So being a little bit new, but still being very successful in the London Open. Devon qualified for North American top 12 in Players Cup. I believe that's the first Players Cup. Top 16 at Dallas Regionals, the very first regional of Sword and Shield, and even getting 5th place in an international challenge. And those are, you know, a very it's like thousands of people playing in those tournaments. That's a pretty hard thing to accomplish. So a pretty solid list of accomplishments here for Devon.
Yeah. So like you said earlier, like the records on in the World Cup in this tournament are really strong. For Devon, he has a record of 3-1, and Benjamin 1-0, like you said earlier. Benjamin notably also used this Zacian, Kyogre, Shedinja, and Kingdra team that he built himself, and managed to use that same team to get to the 23rd place in the London Open. So in front of us, we see a little bit of a mix-up from both players. Devon actually used Eveldon with the Slowbro back in week 1, and then used a few teams after that, but seems to be going back to the Eveldon core. But with a Mimikyu being put in the mix, usually you see the Slowbro or the Bronzong at that slot, and you have the Regieleki to go fast. And Benjamin So is a team that's pretty familiar. This is a core of Kyurem, White, and Calyrex Shadow, popularized by a player called Nathan Ortiz or Cortex. He managed to get pretty top 4 all the way in Vancouver regionals back in the end of May. And notably, this like Talonflame has something hidden, right, in its moveset. It has like the Endure and the Casted Berry, so I'm curious to see whether Benjamin actually adapts it and uses the same kind of core and movesets for this game.
Yeah, Cortex was able to cut, I think, 3 different regionals with it. So like this is a tried and true proven team. It was present a lot in Worlds. I think this is the earlier version though. The more newer variations have had Shedinja over the Ditto, if I'm not mistaken, or over one of the other Pokemon. But regardless, no Shedinja makes me happy, because then we don't have to theorize about where the ally switches are going.
So here we have the leads from both players. We're jumping into this game with Devon at the bottom of the screen and Benjamin at the top. We are still notably playing in Series 12 because this is the game, this is the format that gives us the most integrity, and there's also money to play for all these teams. So Kyurem, White, and Talonflame with that tailwind pressure coming out right away, and we have the triggering option of Mimikyu partnered with the Yveltal on Devon's team, and the Kyurem seems to be putting in a lot of pressure while the Mimikyu is threatening to set up a trick room.
Yeah, something that's going to be very important to remember here, of course, is that Kyurem does have access to that Turbo Blaze ability, which will allow it to hit the Mimikyu through disguise. A Dynamax Kyurem should be able to pick that up fairly easily, even without a super effective move. But it's going to be interesting to see just what Benjamin goes for here, and it looks like it is going to be that Dynamax. I'd put all my money on the fact that that's not the Talonflame, Evan. And wow, I won. Cool, that's great. So Kyurem's going to go big, and the big question now is, what's Devon gonna do? Is that like Max Badef Mimikyu? Does that even live? I don't know. This is gonna be an interesting turn.
I know Mimikyu's special defense stat to be pretty high, so let's see what happens here. The Talonflame naturally goes for that Tailwind. I guess it could have went for an attack. Oh no way! Mimikyu survives on 6 HP. Oh, and it gets the trick room off. So Kyurem reveals the life out there. Yveltal actually gets the opportunity to then go for Snarl to just reduce Kyurem's damage output, and also at the same time break like Talonflame's Gale Wings. The Hail would have broken it after that, but importantly, the Mimikyu sets up Trick Room. It should go down to the Hail if it does not have the safety goggles, and Free Switch would then be able to come in, something like the Groudon.
It does have safety goggles. Oh my god, that's actually insane what we're seeing coming out this turn number 1. That's gonna be honestly a bit of an unmitigated disaster for Benjamin, if we're being completely honest. That makes me wonder, is that maybe freeze dry, because that only becomes 120 base power? I don't know, like Blizzard I feel like would have picked up there for sure.
Yeah, like the 150 base power, right, coming out from Max Hailstorm from Blizzard. So Devon takes the opportunity to switch out that Yveltal, possibly predicting like an ice type move going into that slot, switches in the Incineroar, and the Talonflame also switches out to an Urshifu, and Mimikyu takes the opportunity to go for a super effective play rough. Not that much damage into the Kyurem. The Kyurem seems to be pretty bulky naturally, and Kyurem, like I said, goes for the Hailstorm into the Incineroar, and Incineroar took it pretty well as the hail like chip damage reveals the speeds here.
Yeah, that's going to be a potential broken sash on the Urshi as well. Usually it runs banned on this team, so maybe not the biggest deal, but Benjamin is having a real hard time making use of this Dynamax. He's just not really finding any value out of it there. And you know, the instant switch in, it's great because what is Benjamin really going to risk the entire game on quaking the Yveltal slot? Probably not. Here we go though. Ditto coming in, copying the Mimikyu. An interesting thing to copy there, and that's actually just going to eat up the Flare Blitz really, really well with the Disguise. Oh wait, no, Ditto doesn't actually get Disguise. Interesting.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't know that interaction.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So, like, Ditto just takes so much damage and actually goes down to that double up. Devon kind of respecting that the Urshifu needs to be taken out as much as possible, and ignoring the Kyurem there, just allowing the Kyurem to go for Max Wormwind and grab a quick KO. So I think Kyurem's Dynamax, in hindsight, could have been okay, right, if you think about it, doing significant damage into two Pokemon, but from Devon's side, he still has probably a few more, 2 or 3 more turns of Trick Room and still has the Dynamax option. So Benjamin really needs to play around that, especially when that Ditto was taken out on that previous turn. Ditto could have made a better impact towards the late game.
Yeah, so Ditto unfortunately going down already, and that brings the Urshifu back into the game. The Groudon here is also on the field. I'm gonna fathom a guess that the Groudon is probably gonna be moving before that Kyurem right now, but yeah, this is already, I mean, Max Rockfall is going to be a really, really good option here as well. The Talonflame's what's in the back, so even if the Kyurem switches out, this is guaranteed to pick up a KO unless the Kyurem protects, in which case it's still going to take the Kyurem very, very low. I think at this point, Devon has put himself in a fantastic position. It's going to be very, very difficult to come back from for Benjamin.
Yeah, Benjamin kind of identifies that needs to keep the Kyurem safe, as the Kyurem is the Pokemon that would do the most damage, and switches in the Talonflame, kind of getting ready to sack it, unless the Groudon goes for Max Quick there, so that could be Benjamin's out. But just because the Mimikyu survived the very powerful Max Hailstorm all the way at the first turn, things are just really, really hard for Benjamin, and I think he should just take the opportunity here to collect as much information as possible. So here comes the Sucker Punch into the Mimikyu, able to take out the Mimikyu because of how Disguise works in this generation, and Urshifu then gets to live to see another turn. So here comes the Max Rockfall, correctly predicting not to go for a Max Quick into that slot, and takes out the Talonflame right away. I think there should be one last turn of Trick Room left.
Yeah, so even at that point, though, we've already seen so much momentum gained here by the use of that Trick Room. The Groudon still has 2 turns of its Dynamax, and of course, both restricted Pokemon still alive here for Devon. Yveltal's going to come back on in here. Even if the Kyurem manages to protect, get the last turn of Trick Room gone, it's still going to be taking so much damage potentially through protect, and also just like it's maybe it picks up the Yveltal, but the Yveltal is probably going to be Assault Vest on a team like this. I would imagine. I don't know. We're gonna have to see what's revealed here. Benjamin may be able to clinch this with some incredible plays, but I'm struggling to see a pathway to victory for him.
Yeah, it feels like you need to protect with the Kyurem. Then I think this Trick Room should expire on this turn, then try to go for the Blizzard to do as much damage as possible. So let's see how this plays out, and how Benjamin tries to get as much information from Devon's team as possible, get a little feel on how the damage rolls feel like. So let's see, the Sucker Punch goes into the Groudon. Wow, it actually does so little damage, just 100 HP. And the Groudon actually goes for the Max Quick into the Kyurem slot. Probably one thing, I'm not sure why instead of the Rock Slide, as we then will see what the Yveltal goes for.
I hate that. Just in case there is a Protect that comes out from the Kyurem there, make sure that the Yveltal, especially if it is an Assault Vest variant, is able to survive a potential Freeze Dry coming out next turn. And that's going to be it, though. The Oblivion Wing picking up that Urshifu, and really a very, very clean, well-played set there by Devon, or a game by Devon. I do feel like a lot of that just kind of went back to turn number 1, though. You know, the Benjamin expected Max Hailstorm to KO the Mimikyu, and it didn't. And that was kind of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, living on 6 HP makes it feel like a few more rolls still needed to hit that mark to take out the Mimikyu. So you might be right in kind of guessing that the move from Max Hailstorm might be Freeze Dry instead, right? So being able to take out the Mimikyu, Benjamin would then have to go back to the drawing board to try and figure out how to remove the option of Trick Room all the way in turn 1. So maybe doubling into the Mimikyu could be an option, as we do see the same leads coming out from both sides, the Kyurem and the Talonflame, and this time and the Yveltal and the Mimikyu on Devon's side.
So we see a repeat of the leads here. This is going to be interesting. I'm curious about how exactly this is going to play out, because on the one hand, you could just double the Mimikyu. You get the disguise damage, and then you just KO it with Max Hailstorm or something like that. On the other, you could go for an attempted Max Hailstorm onto the Yveltal if you're Benjamin, but Devon could read that. That's also, like, all of these moves are fairly telegraphed, so it's going to be, in some ways, a little bit of a 50-50, but it's just really an intense read. So here comes the Dynamax. Once again, it's going to be the Kyurem. What's the target? Is it just going to be tried and true, go after the Yveltal again, maybe add some damage from a Gale Wings attack from the Talonflame, or is it going to be an attempted KO there on that Yveltal?
Yeah, it's something I don't understand, which is Talonflame going for Tailwind, because both these Pokemon should be the faster ones on the field. So here comes the Max Hailstorm again, but this time going into the Yveltal, taking the clean one-hit KO from Devon's end, being patient not to Dynamax right on turn 1 and favoring the Trick Room strategy. So I was thinking like Benjamin could have used the Talonflame probably to go for a Flare Blitz to go into the Mimikyu, because he knows that he's going to go for Max Hailstorm and kind of break the Gale Wings anyway. But this time, Yveltal goes down, a pretty big piece of the puzzle, something that like it's obvious for a Kyurem to take out. So Devon will only have 3 Pokemon left, but more importantly, he now has that Trick Room, and let's see how Benjamin then navigates like through these turns.
So this is interesting, because Benjamin got exactly what he wanted out of that turn. But if you're Devon, I feel like if I'm Devon, the only reason you open with Mimikyu Yveltal is if you're perfectly okay losing the Yveltal and getting a free switch into your Trick Room. So Devon almost definitely has a game plan into this exact line. The question is going to be whether or not it accounts for everything that Benjamin is going to do. We're almost definitely going to be seeing big Groudon here, but the Ditto is going to be able to copy that. That's going to be a little bit difficult for Devon to remove. Obviously, Ditto does maintain its pretty small HP stat, but it's going to get the defensive stats of that Groudon, which is going to make it a little bit rougher to remove. But this is going to be an interesting one, you know? I mean, Kyurem still offers a ton of damage output into a potential Groudon. It hasn't taken any damage yet. Maybe Play Rough plus Rockfall is calced to take out the Kyurem, but with that much bulk on the Mimikyu, that would also surprise me.
True, yeah, I think the logical thing to do now is to use Groudon to go for Max Quick to boost the special defense on both sides. The Mimikyu actually goes for Taunt into the Talonflame slot, now switching into the Ditto, which is the Groudon, and not opting to go for damage into the Kyurem. So here comes the Max Quick. Yeah, it does pretty decent damage into this Kyurem, as the Kyurem is then able to go for Max Whirlwind to chip the Groudon a little bit, and importantly lower the attack stat from both sides, both the Groudon and the Mimikyu. So pretty even turn all around. the Mimikyu and the Groudon still threaten the Kyurem with that KO because it should be in range of the Max Rockfall plus Play Rough right now. I'm not sure if the -1 attack would matter.
I feel like if the double up goes through, it's at worst a roll. But instead, Devon opting to play on the safe side and just go for a Wisp on that Groudon clone. This is going to be an interesting one. You know, I feel like Max Quake it should be enough to make sure that Kyurem doesn't pick up a KO with Max Hailstorm or something, but instead Devon is just opting to go for the safest possible play here. Gonna stall out the last turn of that Kyurem's Dynamax. Well, Kyurem's gonna stall out the last turn of its own Dynamax, and Wisp is gonna go in onto the Ditto here. Interesting turn here of not very much happening. Devon just happy to stall out a turn of Dynamax. Benjamin just happy to stall out a turn of Trick Room.
Yeah, I think that makes sense from Devon's side, you know, to waste that last turn of the Kyurem, and Benjamin also, you know, plays defensive and does not get any value out of that. It could have gone for like the Max Hailstorm into the Mimikyu to bring it down as much as possible. So the only damage that we see here would be from the Groudon on Benjamin's side being able to connect the Precipice Blitz and break Mimikyu's disguise. So Kyurem now grows small, and Devon would have kind of full control in these last few Trick Room turns to just do as much damage as possible and take out as many of Benjamin's mons as he can.
Well, Kyurem is once again going to leave the field of play. We're going to be seeing Sableye coming on and revealing the final Pokemon of Benjamin. And Groudon's going to be going out as well. Benjamin still has all 4 Pokemon. We've also already seen a couple of turns of Trick Room go down. So overall, I think that Benjamin's doing a pretty good job of stalling Trick Room. That looks like a critical hit to me, and it is. Oh, that's very unfortunate. The Sableye comes in and immediately meets its maker. Rockfall's gonna come down as well. That looks like it was probably a double up onto the Kyurem slot if I had to guess. So that crit allowing a double KO here. Wow, that is really unfortunate. There's no universe where that was a Rockfall into the Groudon clone.
Yeah, exactly. It's such an unfortunate turn of events and a pretty good switch, all things considered, from Benjamin's side. You know, switching the Sableye, and he made sure to go for the Max Worm win into the Groudon earlier, so both Groudon and Mimikyu are at -1 attack. So just unfortunate to get both Pokemon to go down just like that, because if the Play Rough did not get the critical hit, then the Talonflame would still be alive, and
both of them would still be
Benjamin
alive.
and Benjamin could then switch a little bit more to then stall out Trick Room, but now he's just put into a very difficult situation, having to bring Kyurem back, especially, and also that Ditto.
Well, here we go. I believe one more turn of Trick Room is left, so Benjamin should be able to stall this out with a Protect on the Kyurem. Ditto, though, already burned. Man, this is an awkward one. I wonder if maybe bringing Ditto in on the other side might have been better to try to copy Wisp from the Mimikyu, but like, you're really relying a lot on this Kyurem. It's gonna have to carry a lot of weight, and the Groudon does, of course, have at least one boost. Still, though, Freeze Dry off of Kyurem's base 170 special attack with Life Orb, that's still gonna be a lot of damage being dished out on the next turn.
Yeah, I think like the cards are just all on the table here. The Play Rough actually misses into the Kyurem, but a Rock Slide comes forward. Oh, it was a -1 Rock Slide, so isn't able to take out the Kyurem. Interesting that Benjamin does not protect right on the last turn of Trick Room, and here goes for that Raw Blizzard. Unfortunately, isn't able to connect into the Groudon in Sun. And here comes the Precipice Blitz, being able to connect onto both Pokemon. So Benjamin just fighting really hard, trusting that the attack drop on these mons would come in handy, right? And now Trick Room is over, and yeah, I guess both players just need to click buttons and pray that they hit now.
Yeah, the biggest problem now is that the Life Orb recoil looks like it might be able to pick up a KO onto Kyurem this turn. I think it might have enough to live on 1 or 2 though, so he needs to double connect the Blizzard. He does double connect the Blizzard. It needs to KO both. It does KO both. Now it just comes out down to whether or not it's going to be picked up by the Life Orb recoil.
It's amazing to see the odds of Blizzard collecting instant. So yeah, that 10% from what I saw, like, I thought the Kyurem wouldn't go down. So now Devon's then left with just one Pokemon. So not protecting on that last one of Trick Room did help Benjamin to chip the Mimikyu down for both the Pokemon to take it out right after that, and not like be able to do damage right from the Mimikyu side. So here comes a Venusaur switch in from Devon instead of the Incineroar from the previous game. But you know, Kyurem is down to its last life, and obviously Ditto is like the Groudon being copied is weak to grass from the Venusaur side.
Yeah, I think Benjamin still needs a miss on this Leaf Storm. I mean, if he lives the Leaf Storm, that's great, but the biggest reason why Groudon is so tanky against super effective hits is its HP stat, and Ditto doesn't have that. So, you know, what needs to happen now is the Kyurem needs to protect, Benjamin needs to live this Leaf Storm, chip the Sash away from the Venu, and oh, it misses! Okay, now all that's required... Oh my god, all that's required is a Blizzard hit, or even, I mean, if he has Freeze Dry, it will pick up this Venusaur. There's one more turn of Sun, though, still. I thought this was the last turn of Sun. Double Protect on the Kyurem, probably the play. Oh, this is such a crazy endgame, Evan.
Yeah, the Ditto actually came in late, so I think there are still 2 or 3 more turns because the Ditto copied the Groudon and reset the Sun, if I'm not wrong. So here comes the Weather Ball, not wanting to miss potential Leaf Storm or Sleep Powder, goes for 100% accurate move. As the Precipice Blades then comes in, we saw the damage earlier, and just unfortunate not being able to take the Venusaur out, and the Groudon is the Ditto Groudon is still at the mercy of Venusaur now. Yeah, Sun is still up, so Venusaur will still be moving first.
Yeah, I mean, unless we see more Leaf Storm misses, but it's not going to come through this time. The Venusaur has put on its glasses, hits the move. Benjamin's Groudon clone goes down, and it's a 2-0 win for Devon. Bit of a crazy endgame there in that game, too, but overall, I'd say a pretty clean result there for Devon. Unfortunate, again, that crit on the Sableye potentially really shifting the momentum in that second game. Regardless, though, a win on the board for India here, and a solid 2-0. That's their 40th match win with compared to their 9 losses. They're just continuing to have the best win rate in the entire tournament.
Yeah, but we saw how the match played out. It's not just a simple 2-0. It really had a lot of factors involved, right? And Benjamin really fought as hard as he could in that game too, you know, to bring it all the way down to a 2v1 against the Venusaur. Just unfortunate circumstances and like some hacks that happened in the game just couldn't be able to close it out for Singapore, but still a really good job. And from my perspective as a caster, I thought Cortex's team does make sense. Like into an Eveldon, it seems like a good matchup. Like Kyurem threatens so many of the opposing side with super effective ice type attacks, but still the Mimikyu being just super bulky and being able to get that strategy to always set up Trick Room just helped Devon so much and just helped him like overcome the matchup and win this game.
Yeah, just overall, just a really, really cool spread on the Mimikyu. We're not privy to knowing exactly what that was, you know, but still an incredibly bulky Mimikyu. Generally speaking, when you have something like Turbo Blaze or something that, you know, Mold Breaker that ignores Disguise, a lot of the time you just think, oh, well, I mean, I can hit the Mimikyu, it's going to go down. It's a Mimikyu. And then when it's built in this specific way, suddenly, no, it's not going down. Both Pokemon are still alive, Trick Room's up, and that Yveltal's just snarled you and your Dynamax with your Kyurem. Like, life gets very sad very, very quickly in the case of that first game. But overall, a really, really neat first set of the day, but there's still plenty more where that came from. I think we've got 2 Poland versus Argentina matches coming up next, which is going to be setting the pace for that match. So don't miss it. Don't go anywhere. We've got more World Cup of VGC action coming your way right after this break.